will also record the answer given by the respondents. So the basic difference is in the questionnaire, the respondent will do everything without the interviewer assisting him. In the schedule, the the person who's taking the interview will ask the questions and record the answers given by the respondent. The second is questionnaire is more highly structured and standardized. Questionnaire, the questions are fixed, it is structured, and questions are standard for everybody. And in the interview schedule is mostly unstructured and questions are not standardized. That means the questions are unstructured in the schedule. You can ask the first question at the last, second question in the fourth position, and questions are not standardized. That means you can vary the language of the questions. Third is questionnaire lacks flexibility in wording and sequencing the questions, and hence in answering the questions. So there's no flexibility in wording of the questionnaire. The words are fixed, the questions are fixed, the sequence is fixed. That is, the serial numbers are given there, and the candidate has to answer according to the serial number. In the schedule, the interview wants the respondents to discuss in his or her own words and form his or her own frame of reference, and the flexibility is there. So the interview can discuss in his or her own words and form his or her own form of reference. That means if you go and ask questions, you can ask in Hindi, you can ask in English. If you are in Bhopal and you are interviewing a retailer, then you can ask in Bhopali language. If you are in Malwa or Indore, you can ask in the local language. If you are in South India, then you can ask in the local language. You can ask in English, Hindi, and whatever language, like in Sagar, you can ask in Hindi. So he'll feel comfortable. Then fourth difference is there's no scope of rewording, rephrasing, or rearranging the questions, which are fixed on the questionnaire. In the questionnaire, there's no scope of, you can't reword it, you can't rephrase it, or rearrange the questions which are fixed on the questionnaire. While in an interview schedule, definite questions to be asked, but the interview will be allowed to reword, rephrase, or rearrange the questions according to his or her own judgment and situation. That means in interview schedule, you can ask questions, but you can reword it, rephrase it, or rearrange it. You can change the word, you can rephrase the questions or rearrange the questions according to his or her own judgment. That I said that if the retailer is not able to understand English, you can ask in Hindi or another language. You can ask according to the situation also. Like if the retailer is really busy, you can ask simple questions. What's your name? What's your age? Then he will reply while talking to the customers. And the difficult questions you can ask when he is free. So you can reword, rephrase, or rearrange the questions. Fifth, in a questionnaire, there is a choice of the respondent to apply his or her own judgment and answer the question as he she thinks right. In a questionnaire, it is the respondents to apply his own judgment and answer the questions as he thinks is right. That means the interview doesn't have to do anything. It is the respondent, he has to apply his own judgment and answer the question whatever he feels like. In a schedule, there is lesser freedom to the respondent in answering, but she is guided by the interview according to the data needs. In the schedule, the interviewer is asking the questions and he clarifies the questions once, twice, thrice, and guides the respondent to give the right answer. So, depending on the needs, the freedom is not there on part of the respondent because the interview is sitting in front and he can explain the question very clearly and guides the interviewer. Sixth is questionnaire is meant for sending by mail to the respondents. Most of the time, you send the questionnaire by mail to the respondents. While interview schedule is meant for personal administration by the interview during an interaction with the respondents. Now, when you send it by mail, It's a fact that I'm in the academics and all teachers are there in academics, and you get a lot of questionnaires by mail and you have to answer it. So let us be truthful. I give these questionnaires to my research scholars. Vera Bhardena has to, because most of the senior professors, most of the faculty are busy. Most of the time they give to the research scholars or the junior faculty. So you don't know who is answering the question of the questionnaire. The questionnaire is meant for a senior professor HOD, but maybe somebody else is answering. So your data is lopsided totally, and you're not sure who has answered the questions. The questionnaire is sent by mail and you get response by mail. While an interview schedule is personally administered, you go take an appointment, ask the questions, so you know exactly that person is answering to which the question is intended for. Seventh is cover letters carrying requests and instructions to the respondent is an essential characteristic of a questionnaire. In a questionnaire, you have to have a cover letter telling the respondents about the objective, why this project is going on, and that is attached with the questionnaire. An interview schedule does not need a cover letter because interview performs the requesting and the instruction task. In the interview schedule, you do not require cover letter. The interviewer will introduce himself, explain why he is doing the survey, and so on and so forth. Now we'll go for designing the questionnaire or the interview schedule. We have talked about the difference between the questionnaire and schedule. Now we go for how do you design a questionnaire or interview schedule. Questionnaire or schedule designing consists of 5 steps. Specifying the data requirement. First of all, you have to be very clear as to what data you require. What kind of a data exactly is required? That has to be defined first. You require the demographic characteristics. You require the consumer behavior, purchase behavior. What exactly are you require? Do you want? So specify the data requirement. Then second is determining the type of questions to be asked. What kind of questions you want to ask? That will depend on the data you have to collect. Then deciding the number and sequence of questions. You have to decide how many questions and what will be the sequence of the questions. Fourth is preparing the preliminary draft of the questionnaire. Then in the fourth step, you prepare a preliminary draft of the questionnaire. Like the students, they come to the teacher, sir, I have prepared this questionnaire. So you have a look at the preliminary draft. And then you suggest more questions or you add or delete the questions. Then fifth is revising and pre-testing the questionnaire. So after that, the questionnaire is revised and pre-testing is done. Now, pre-testing is done by the students or by the research scholars. But my esteemed faculty members must know that in most of the thesis, the result of the pre-testing is not mentioned. What happened when you pre-tested? Did you add the questions? Did you delete some questions? Or did you rephrase the questions? So all the details must be mentioned in 1 or 2 pages to what were the results of the pre-testing, which is never mentioned in any thesis or in a project report. Then the first step, specifying data requirements. Researcher should ask himself certain questions. What specific data should be necessary to test the hypothesis? What data you want to test the hypothesis which you have defined? Then what relationship among variables are important in accomplishing research objectives? So when you want to achieve the research objective, what relationship you want among different variables? Like, is the purchasing of goods related to income, or there are other factors? Third, the researcher must keep in mind the analysis she is going to conduct with the collected data. What kind of analysis do you want to do with the collected data? Then what statistical techniques will be used? Correlation, regression, chi-square test, all these things, what kind of statistical technique will be used? That has to be kept in mind. The researcher must also see the kind of population to be studied. That is economical possess the characters of all the population. That means is economically significant data is possessed by the characters of all the population. Determining type of the questions. A researcher must decide which type of the question will he ask from his respondents. The following are the various type of questions. Now we are saying what kind of questions I have to ask from the respondents. First is direct questions. Second is indirect questions. Third is open-ended questions. Fourth is closed-ended question. Now direct questions. Direct questions explicitly ask for the desired data. Like what's your name? What's your age? Where are you from? Explicitly they ask for the desired data. Second is directness of the question also relates to the way a response is interpreted. It also relates to the response. How do you interpret the response? Third is it also helps in rectifying the inefficiency barriers that exist when some personality characters is attached. Now, you have to explain like that. It also helps in rectifying the inefficiency barriers that exist when some personality characteristics attached. That means when you attach a personality characteristic to a question, does Kapil Dev use shaving cream? So that candidate remembers immediately the shaving creams, which maybe Kapil Dev is advertising, or some other personality is advertising. Fourth is, according to this approach, a researcher can ask, how old are you when you first purchased brand B? Rather than asking, have you ever purchased brand B? Now, this question, how old are you when you first purchased? आप कितने साल के थे जब आपने brand B खरीदा? Rather than asking, have you ever purchased brand B? तो बोले, the candidate or the respondent will tell you that, okay, I was 20 years old or 16 years old when I started shaving. So that is a better question rather than have you ever purchased brand B. So you have asked him and you get the required answer. Indirect questions. Indirect question refers to those whose responses are used to indicate or suggest data about the respondent other than the actual facts given in the answer. Indirect questions can be asked under the following circumstances: when the respondents and interview do not share a common language, when the content of the question is somehow threatening to the respondent's ego, prestige, or emotional defenses, when the question seeks to uncover data that the respondents might perceive undesirable. The various techniques for indirect questions are: the question must be framed in terms of generalized third person. Seemingly direct questions must be asked. Picture stories or other ambient stimuli can be used. Now, suppose you have to ask, what is your income? Then if you ask directly, respondent may not respond. He'll say, लिख लो, ये 2 lakh के नीचे. So you cannot ask directly. So you go for indirect questions. You may say that, what is the overall income of the people in this locality who have purchased houses about 50-60 lakhs? So the respondent may say, यहाँ सबकी income तो it is around 25 to 30 lakhs because houses are expensive. That means his income is also between 25 and 30 lakhs. So indirect questions, sometimes you have to ask rather than direct questions, because in direct questions the respondents are uncomfortable. So the techniques we have said, the questions must be framed in terms of generalized third person. Say for example, again you say, what is your neighbor's income? The housewife may say, अरे हमसे ज़्यादा नहीं है, हमसे तो कम ही है यहाँ. So होगी कितनी उनकी? You can ask. 40-50 लाख, लेकिन हमारी तो 60 लाख है. Lady of the house will tell you. So you have not asked her income, you have asked the neighbor's income, and she has indirectly told you her income. Picture stories or other ambiguous stimuli may be used. Now the last one, picture stories or other ambiguous stimuli can be used. Now you can show a picture or you can tell a story and ask about the opinion of the respondents. Say, for example, we can show the picture of a star like Sri Devi and say, do you remember any ad associated with Sri Devi or Kapil Dev or Shah Rukh Khan? Rather than asking a direct question, do you remember Kapil Dev? As soon as you show a picture of Kapil Dev, then the respondent may say, yes, yes, I have seen in this advertisement. Or he or she sees the picture of Sri Devi. Then he or she will answer, yes, I have seen Sri Devi in this particular advertisement. What you're just showing a picture and indirectly asking whether you have seen this particular in any advertisement. So that is a stimuli, the picture. Or you can tell a story. लाइक ऐसा 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 वहाँ हुआ था फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में और ये एडवर्टाइजमेंट बहुत पॉपुलर हुआ था फिर उसकी भर्सना हुई जो कि थोड़ा वल्गर था क्या वो एडवर्टाइजमेंट आप कुछ बता सकते हैं कुछ याद है आपको उसके बारे में तो बाद में बहुत आलोचना हुई थी वल्गर था लेकिन अच्छा था हाँ वो बोलेगा वो वाला एडवर्टाइजमेंट था उस प्रोडक्ट के बारे में सो rather than asking directly we have used picture or stories for getting the answers. Open-ended questions. These are known as free answer questions. Those who do not have any fixed alternative choices to which the answer must conform. Like we have said, these are known as free answer questions. The respondent is supposed to answer in his own free way. Those who do not have any fixed alternative choices to which the answer must conform. There are no fixed alternative. Say, for example, what do you think about the particular product? Now, this is a free answer question. There are no fixed alternative. He can answer freely and give his opinion about a particular product. The respondent answers in his or own words and Bundelkhand, Gujarati, Marathi, and at any length. That means he can answer in 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, or even 10 minutes. That is his choice. Person who is asking the questions, he has to interpret the answer, and there's a lot of ambiguity. He may talk about so many things which are not required. Now, these questions can be asked in the following ways. These can be used as discussion opener on a topic. For example, when you think of food decay, what toothpaste comes into your mind? So you can, when you want free answer questions, then you can start a discussion opener. Ask a question, when you think of a tooth decay, what toothpaste comes into your mind? Now he can talk about so many toothpastes and come out with the answer. We have left it as an open discussion. Then second is sometimes researcher can ask suggestion questions. For example, what do you think this company should do to better serve its consumer? Now you are asking for suggestion from the respondent. What do you think this company should do to better serve its consumer? That means you are asking for straight away suggestions that what better service can the company provide to its consumer? He may come out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 suggestions. Third is some pro questions can also be asked. For example, what is the original color and how does it change after fitting? Then in this type of questions, you can probe also. So we can ask what was the original color of the cloth and how does it change after washing or wetting? Does the color change or is it the same or there is a light fade in the color? That means if you are studying a washing powder, the housewife or the person using the machine can answer as to the change in color or there is no change in the color. Close-ended questions. Questions having fixed alternative comes in the category of close-ended questions. First is respondents are given fixed number of alternatives, responses from which he or she has to select one option that he finds most suitable. That means the fixed alternatives are there from which he or she has to select one option that he finds most suitable. For example, poor, less poor, average, good, very good, and he has to tick That is called close-ended questions. You just have to take one of the options. Second is these can be in the form of dichotomous questions, multiple choice questions, checklist, and rating scales. Dichotomous questions are yes, no. Multiple choice questions, as I said, very poor, poor, average, good, very good. Then checklist and rating scales. Then dichotomous question, these questions refer to one which offers the respondents a choice between two alternatives. Now dichotomous, there are only two alternatives. The fixed alternatives are the types yes, no, right, wrong, approved, disapproved, and so on. That is called as a die, means two. There are only two fixed alternatives. Yes, no, right, wrong, approved, disapproved, and so on. Second is these can be used to obtain two types of information. Factual. Factual information, something is or is not. Do you like it? Yes, no. So factual information straight away get it. Recall knowledge. Do you remember or do you remember? Do you remember or not? Yes, no. So the knowledge is recalled with dichotomous questions. That means, do you remember product A? The alternative will be yes or no. Next type of questions are the multiple choice questions. A multiple choice question refers to one which provides several set alternatives for its answer. And thus, it is a middle ground between, answer and dichotomous questions. Multiple choice questions can be used when an issue has more than two aspects, or when uh, graduation, opinions, or degree of intensity is involved. For example, a question on study on orange squashes can be, why do you use brand A of the orange squashes? Tick the appropriate answer. Now we have multiple choice. Reasonably priced. I use the brand because it is reasonably priced. I use the brand because I am used to it and rely it on. I use the brand because of good taste. Then I use the brand for good packaging and others. Whatever you want, you can specify. Say there's so many orange squashes available in the market. Now recently, Baba Ramdev is going to set up an orange juice or orange squash factory in Nagpur. They have purchased about 600 acres of land in Nagpur, and he's going to compete with real and other orange squashes. So, if you have to go for a survey, then you can ask, why do you use brand A as regard real other juices are concerned, and get to know what are the reasons why people purchase, and then Baba Ramdev can, uh, you know, do the pricing, change the taste, change the packaging, and there's so many things. The multiple choice question must be longer and more complex than either the free answer or dichotomous questions in order to state the several alternatives. The statement of alternatives assists the respondent in recalling and formulating her answer. The alternative should be mutually exclusive, which is very difficult to do. The multiple choice question must be longer. That means instead of others specify, you can have some more options also. Convenient to buy, that means it is available everywhere. And some of the more options rather than having others specify. You can have option number 5, 6, 7. So what we have said is the multiple choice question must be longer and more complex than either the free answer or dichotomous questions in order to state these several alternatives. That means, as I told you, it can go on to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 options. The statement of alternatives assists the respondents in recalling and formulating his or her answer. Now, the answer is already there. Good packaging, good taste, used to rely on reasonably. So that helps him in recollecting his memory. हाँ taste अच्छा है, pricing अच्छी है, सस्ता है, because he can see the answer, so he recollects what are the causes of purchasing this particular brand. These alternatives should be mutually exclusive, which is very difficult to do. That means every alternative should be exclusive. That means you have talked about price, then you have talked about reliability, then you have talked about good taste, you have talked about good packaging. That means each of these alternatives should be very specific and distinct from others. There should be no confusion. Now, clarity of meaning. There must always be a sense of clarity while constructing a questionnaire. You should be very clear while you start constructing a questionnaire as to what are the data requirement, what are the objectives. The problem is not only to familiar words and phrases, but to use them in such a manner that possible meanings is reduced. The problem is not only to familiar words and phrases, but to use them in such a manner that possible meanings is reduced. You use words and phrases that are very familiar with the environment. ऐसे शब्द, ऐसे sentences जो आसान लगे, उसको familiar लगे, मतलब जान पहचान वाले लगे, ऐसे शब्द आपको use करने हैं. Then care must be taken to avoid such words that may lead the questions to a double meaning. You don't have to use such words which have double meaning. That means there are words like character or characterless. So you have to be very, very careful handling words which have double meaning, otherwise it will create confusion in the minds of the respondents. There is no scope for slanging in a questionnaire. That means that you don't have to use words which may hurt the sentiment or which may abuse some particular race, religion. That is called slanging. You don't have to do slanging there in a questionnaire. It has to be very specific and it doesn't hurt any religion, character of a person, or something which is very controversial. Then one thing which has to be kept in mind is avoid loaded questions. Loading refers to a feeling attached to a particular word or concept which tends to produce automatic approval or disapproval. So, it is a feeling attached to a particular word or concept which tend to produce automatic approval or disapproval. As soon as you say a word, then it produces a feeling of approval or disapproval. Like smelling mouth. Now, मुंह बास, क्या आपके मुंह में बास आती है? Now, this is a question which is, going to immediately let the respondent on his toes. ये कैसा सवाल है? आती भी है, कभी भी नहीं आती है. तो approval or disapproval, mostly people say नहीं आती. Then when you probe further, हाँ, कभी आती है, रात को आती है, खाने आने का. So you have to see what is the feeling attached to a particular question, which will automatically approve or disapprove. Questions which involve prestige may also make biased response must be avoided. Now, when the prestige is involved, then certain bias comes in. Say, for example, you can say or ask a particular household that the neighbors use Audi and Mercedes. Why don't you do it? Do you plan to purchase Audi and Mercedes because your neighbor is doing, or do you have a idea in your mind that you plan to purchase Audi or Mercedes because there are one Audi, one Mercedes in your neighbor house? So that is hurting the prestige of the respondents because you are indirectly saying that the पड़ोसी के पास है तुम्हारे पास नहीं है, क्यों नहीं है? So questions which involve prestige may also make biased response which must be avoided. The third is when it comes to asking the income of the respondent, it should not be asked in a direct figure. Rather, it can be asked in the form of dividing into classes like below 1 lakh or below 10 lakhs, between 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs, between 20 lakhs and 30 lakhs, and above 30 lakhs. So, as I told you, as soon as you start asking a direct question, what is your income? The problem which you face with the respondents, ये say भाई आप sales tax से हो, income tax से हो, economic officers से हो, police से हो, कौन हो आप? You know, why should I disclose my income? They, as I told you, they'll say लिख लो, भाई हमारे तो 1 लाख के नीचे. Now he or she is saying below 1 lakh or 2 lakhs. Well, you can see that there are 2 imported cars parked outside. There's a pedigree dog which is costing 50,000. There's a security guard, and the house itself is worth 2 crores. And he or she is saying that it is below 2 lakh. So, in order to avoid that direct question, then you divide it into classes like below 10 lakhs, between 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs, between 20 lakhs and 30 lakhs, and above 30 lakhs. So, in terms of questionnaire and schedule, now it is very, very important as to what is your target size of the audience, that is, what is your sample size. So, depending on the sample size, maybe if sample size is large, then you can use a questionnaire. But it should be followed up with schedule also. That means if your sample size is above, say, 5,000, then 2,500 you can do with questionnaire and 2,500 you can do with schedule. Because then that will give you a contrast as in the terms of answers. You will get, when you go for schedule, you have interviewed the right person. And when you go for questionnaire, you don't know who has answered the question. So questionnaire, sometimes you don't get the response. Maybe you mail 1,000 questions, 1,000 questionnaires, and you get 600 back. While in schedule, you can have a team which can go to the respondents. Maybe it is 1,000 or 500 or maybe 1,500 or 2,000. But you know that actually the schedule has been administered and answers have been recorded. Now, I was like doing my summer training while I was doing my MBA in Bajaj Electricals Pune, and my topic was advertising penetrations of Bajaj irons, electrical fans in the city of Pune. And the city of Pune, I had divided into North Pune, South Pune, East Pune, West Pune, Central Pune, and collect convenient samples from each of the geographies. He had asked me to mention the mobile numbers and the address also of the various respondents from various colonies. So he randomly, called maybe 20, 30 people and asked whether I had come or not. And the respondent replied that I had come. So immediately he could check whether I had did my work or not. So this is a message to the students that if you go to the market area and do a survey using a schedule, don't falsify the answers. Sometimes people or students, they sit in their room and fill up the questionnaires or the schedule on their own and submit it with random answers. Don't do that, because then you are totally defeating the objective of the survey, to go to the field and see the response of the respondents, how do you behave, how to collect the data. You have totally defeated the objective. And the report you submit to your bosses or to the education institute, or you appear for the Viva with the external examiner. Within 5 minutes, he knows that you have done the wrong work. You have not gone to the field within 5 minutes. And then you are in a fix. Then maybe the project report examiner may ask you, भाई कहाँ से आपने टाइप करवाई, कितने पैसे दिए? And that is what is happening. So this market research, you have to be very careful as to how do you administer a schedule and do it truthfully. If you falsify anything, it comes out very fast. It may take 5 or 7 minutes for any examiner, for any research supervisor, or any market research agency to see that you have falsified data and you have not gone to the field and collected data. So you have to be very careful when you go and collect primary data in the form of a schedule. Please ensure that when you go to a house to collect data, or you go to an office to collect data, then you are clean shaved. Okay, then you wear a tie and you are wearing a proper formal dress, because that makes impact. You should carry an identity card with you. You should carry a letter from the department or the institute, or a researcher may carry a letter from the university stating that you are a researcher and you have come to collect data. Because when you enter an office or a house in the afternoon, the lady of the house will look through the keyhole. In metro city, there are flats and there's a keyhole, and he or she may not open the door if you got a beard and you look like a chor danku. So you have to have a smiling face, be clean shaved, wear a tie, be properly dressed, and then only you make a first impact. And I've seen that most of the students, they go badly dressed and they don't get the responses. If you go and ask questions, once you enter the house, you go and ask questions, maybe you'll have to play the role of, servant. The child is crying and the housewife is busy in cooking. Maybe if you want to ask questions, you have to carry a toffee with you, give a toffee to the child so he stops crying, because the lady of the house may not be able to answer the questions while the child is crying and she is in a stress. And she will feel nice when you give a toffee to the child and he or she stops crying and the lady of the house is comfortable to answer the questions. Maybe you'll have to wait for 2 hours. Maybe they don't open the door and tell you okay to get out. We don't have the time. So collecting data using a schedule is tough. But then you are very sure that you have collected data from the right person. Maybe you have to wait for the husband to come back home, go at a time when he comes back to office, because you want to collect data from the husband in 5 minutes. He or she may, the housewife may tell you that okay, he's going to come half an hour, then you have to wait for 1 hour maybe. So it is very difficult to get primary data through a schedule. But then that is the real authentic data which you get. As I told you, a questionnaire, you may not get the response, you don't know who fills it up. So when you give your research presentation, please add the results of the pre-testing. What happened when you go for pre-testing of the schedule or the questionnaire? What changes were made? You discuss that in a particular page or a chapter, part of a chapter. Nobody does that. And maybe they say that I have gone for pre-testing. Ask them, where are the results? What happened? Did you increase or decrease questions? Did you change the language? And they are dumb. So it is mentioned that pre-testing is done, but then the results are not there. So it's very, very important that you prepare the questionnaire or schedule, very important. Sequence, the wording. And when you go for an interview schedule, then you should know the local language, in the sense that if you ask a retailer in English, then he is not going to understand. So you talk to him in Hindi, and maybe he'll feel very nice if you talk in Bundelkhandi in Sagar, in Bhopali language in Bhopal, in Malwa in Indore, or in Marathi in Maras, like that. So you'll be prepared to interact with that particular retailer in his or her own language. You should know how to get answers from him. For that, you have to make a good imply saying about questionnaire or schedule. Most of the researchers and respondents, I told you, don't know the difference between a questionnaire and schedule. This I have experienced in project report viva, PhD vivas, and
If anyone has any queries or questions, they
Sir,
can ask. Sure.
good afternoon. Sir, thank you very much, sir, for providing.
tiring. Then 20 minutes means about 12 to 15 questions, not more than that. Otherwise, the respondents will feel bored. He'll say, ho gaya, mere paas time nahi hai. Even with the questionnaire, he'll answer 8, 10 questions, and after that, if it is too long, then his focus or concentration goes off and he'll just say tick, 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 and that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody more?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, actually, you mentioned that we have to go ahead with their personal information as well, like their address and phone number. But sometimes people are not ready to share this kind of information. So, what's the alternative for this?
Okay, people not ready to share the personal information. Like if you are doing an interview schedule, that means you personally you are in front of the respondent. Then first of all, as I told you, you have to create an impression in the sense that you have to make it very clear that you are a student or a research scholar doing this particular survey for the project given to you as a part of your syllabus, and the data would not be shared with anyone. That you have to convince because people are very hesitant to give it at marketing professional agencies or some other agency, and they do not share their personal data very easily. So you have to be very impressive and be very clear about what are the objectives of the survey and encourage the respondents to share. It is difficult, but you have to engage the respondent, motivate him or her, carry gifts like pen, etc. Ma'am, if you answer this question, there's a small pen gift for you or whatever small cup. So, in like even if you get a pen in worth 2 rupees in free, you don't have to pay anything. We Indians have the habit like anything free, we grab it. If you start distributing pen in free, maybe there's a 50 students or 50 people in line to wait 20 or 25 minutes to get a 5 rupee free pen. So motivate the respondents by carrying pen gifts, etc. And maybe he or she will pay a part with the data and make the objective very clear that this is not going to be used anywhere.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
I'm Dr. N.K. Kaushik. It was a very informative session. And actually, since I'm a person related with education, and what type of the dichotomous questions, I was always confused. But today, Dr. Thakur made very clear what is dichotomous questions, the question which only two alternatives. So I'm very thankful to Dr. Thakur for this making my concept very clear. Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Okay, we have seen our chat box and there is no any questions. So it's time to conclude the session. Now, for this, I would like to request Professor Vivek Sharma, sir. Professor Vivek Sharma, sir, can you hear me? Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. I would like to request you, sir. We have seen in the session, listened to Professor Y.S. Thakur, sir, a wonderful speech on research methodology, especially in scheduling and questionnaire. Now, I would like to request you, sir, kindly give the vote of thanks to him and some eminent participant like Dr. N.K. Kaushik and all the participants.
Good afternoon, everyone. Another beautiful session. We have enjoyed a lot. Today's speaker, a well-known figure in national as well as international level, my senior professor, well-known academician, having long experience of research and very simple and kind-hearted also. So first of all, I would like to thank you, sir, for accepting my invitation and giving me the consent immediately. And the lecture was wonderful, very interesting, and we have enjoyed. You see, in our life, even I have felt this experience. The making of questionnaire, framing of questions is the most important and most difficult part. What to ask and what should not be asked. There should be always a distinction between these two. So now the research scholars can easily grasp what should not be asked and how to get the information from the respondents, because the reliability of the data is very important. On the basis of this data, you or the searcher makes his interpretations, and the whole thesis is based on the data itself. If you select a topic, if you select a problem in which you can get data, then you will be able to complete your thesis or your PhD work. Because many times I have seen the students select a topic, frame their objectives, and then later on they try to find out the data, and the data is not available. Then they come to say, sir, data is not available. So first of all, the data is so important. First of all, you should ensure that the data is available, and then while there is no electricity at my house. Will you be able to hear me?
Yeah, sure,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So thank you sir, for your speech. And again, I'm thankful to you on behalf of CRIM and on behalf of Anand Institute of Management. I would like to thank the Rajiv Chaudhary ji, who is chairman of this society, as well as I am thankful to Kaushik ji and all other distinguished participants which are enjoyed this session. So once again, sir, thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, well, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
We follow up this session.
That's it. Yeah, that's it from today's session.
Okay.